What's up everyone, welcome back to China Cycling. I've got something interesting for you today. It's this, the Sundeal R10 road bike. Sundeal, who? Never heard of them? Nope, I haven't either. Which is why I love living in China, for all these weird and wonderful bike things you can find. So this is actually my friend's wife's bike, and she's had it for about a year now. She's put a few thousand kilometers on it. And this thing is cheap, and I don't mean like tacky, quality, bad, I just mean price cheap. This bike, brand new, last year, cost 7,000 RMB. That's about 700 British pounds, or around about 1,000 US dollars. Looking around on American sites today on Amazon, popping up for around $950. I think I saw it for $920. So stupidly cheap for a fully carbon road bike. But can you trust a fully carbon Chinese road bike that's so cheap? Well, we'll get into that later. But let's see what you get for your money first. So as I said, it's a full carbon frame and fork. I couldn't find out what kind of carbon they use, whether it's T700 or T800, but they just claim it's a UD weave for the finish. It comes with full SRAM Apex, which is getting pretty old now, but 20 years with a compact crank is enough for most people. I'm using Apex on my road bike, despite my bike having been upgraded to being over a $2,000 bike at this point, but I found nothing wrong with Apex. It's a few hundred grams heavier than Rival and Force and Red, but it's got 2 less gears, but it shifts fine. I've got over 15,000 kilometers on my Apex group on my other bike, and it's never missed a beat. It works fine. And so on this bike, they don't skimp with a half group set either. Lots of the cheaper bikes over here in China, they'll come with a 105 group set or a SRAM Apex group set, but the brakes will be unbranded or Tektro or another brand you've never heard much about. But no, full Apex all around here. And the wheels and tires too, not exactly a super bargain basement, they're Mavics. And yeah, it's entry-level Mavic, it's Mavic Axiom with Mavic Axiom tires, but they easily could have gone for some cheaper off-brand stuff, so respect for choosing Mavic for the wheels and tires. The finishing kit for a sub $1,000 bike is crazy. FSA carbon seat post, FSA carbon bars, FSA headset. It came with an FSA stem too, but that's been switched out for this Pro stem to get a bit more aggressive on this not too aggressive geometry. The bike tipped my scales at around 8.1 kilos, so not the lightest bike in the world, but for this price point, a sub $1,000 bike, 8 kilos, it's pretty good. And just for a laugh, I thought I'd throw on my Chinese carbon clinchers and see what that did to the weight, and that brought the weight down to 7.8 kilos. So lots of potential for upgrades if you want to drop a few kilos from this bike. But then we're back to this, the made in China. Can you trust a sub $1,000 bike that's fully carbon from a company you've never heard of? Well, I decided to do some digging around. It turns out Sundeal's bikes are manufactured by a group called the Ideal Bike Corporation. Never heard of them either. I haven't heard of them, but more snooping around on their website shows they're an OEM bike manufacturer who are making bikes for the likes of Fuji and BMC. Yes, that BMC, the multi-$1,000 bike BMC. Ideal Bike Corporation actually have factories in Poland and Taiwan and mainland China, so perhaps they're coming from different factories, but it's the same company, Ideal Bike Corporation, which means when Sundeal says this bike is EN certified, which they do say it is, you can believe that it's actually been certified and tested, if the same manufacturer is also testing and certifying bikes for the likes of BMC and Fuji. But How does it feel to ride? Is the geometry all messed up? Is it stiff? Is it light? Is it responsive? Well, one way to find out, I decided to take it out for a few rides, did some climbs, did some descents, did some sprints, and let's see how it holds up. Test. So, when people review bikes, they like to use words like responsiveness and confidence inspiring, alive, and a bunch of other subjective terms just to try fill out the review. I'm going to try keep that kind of stuff limited, but at the same time I'm going to try let you guys know how this bike compares to other bikes I've ridden. So straight away, stepping on the pedals, I feel like the bottom bracket area is totally up to par. I've ridden everything from fake Chinese Pinarello frames through to specialized S-Works tarmacs, and this seems somewhere in the middle. In all honesty, in my opinion, unless your frame has the stiffness of a wet noodle, I don't think stiffness is as big of an issue as bike manufacturers would have us believe. The front end feels pretty stiff when you're sprinting, not as stiff as my LA Sprint, but stiff enough. The FSA bars also absorb the road buzz beautifully. In fact, the whole frame seems to have great compliance. It's more of a comfortable ride than my LA Sprint, but my LA Sprint is a dedicated aluminum crit bike, so that's not a fair comparison, I guess. It actually feels about as comfortable as an old model Roubaix, the Specialized Roubaix. Handles little bumps and gravel roads pretty well. Handling, no problem. Again, this is where bike magazines and reviewers like to use fancy words, but in essence, when you want the bike to turn, the bike turns. The wheelbase is pretty long. You can see the rear chainstays are longer than most racy bikes, which gives a gap between the rear wheel and the seat tube. I think this gives the bike slightly slower turn-in, but more stability in the corners, which makes total sense for somebody who's just getting into road bikes and wants something that's not going to throw them off on the first corner. Geometry-wise, it's compact geometry, as you can tell from the sloping top tube. This is a 48 centimeter frame. It's not super aggressive if you look at the height of the head tube, but again, makes sense for a beginner road bike. The bike feels a little heavier than it should be. I didn't take everything off to weigh the frame, but knowing the weights of the other components, I'm guessing the frame's around 1.2 kilos and maybe around 350 grams for the fork. So not super heavy, but not amazing for a carbon frame either. So I'm sitting here in my fake Specialized helmet with my fake Oakleys, sipping from my fake Rafa bottle. And it just reminds me that that's what China is famous for, the fake stuff, yeah? But if we look at the other industries, for example, the smartphone industry, the first Chinese smartphones were just knockoff iPhone clones. The original Xiaomi phone, for example, was highly stylized on the iPhone. But fast forward 5 years and Xiaomi are now innovating in the smartphone sector. You have phones like the Xiaomi Max and the Xiaomi Mix, which there was nothing else like it before, with such a small bezel. And I think that's what's going on with the Chinese bike industry too. First they copy and replicate and imitate, but as the industry grows from this knockoff money they're making, they're able to reinvest the money into R&D and start to innovate. And I think that's what we're looking at here with Sundeal. You know, I'm not saying this bike is better than anything from the Western companies, although it may be for the price, but I'm saying this is definitely a step in the right direction. So what do I think they got right about this bike? Lots of things. I think they spec'd it just right. It's good enough to the point where you're not going to be getting dropped on club rides because your bike isn't good enough. You know, if you get dropped on this thing, it's your fault, not the bike. But the specs aren't crazy enough that the price gets inflated. I like that they went with a compact cranset and an 1128 cassette. And that's perfect gearing for 95% of mortal cyclists. You can keep the cadence going, go up any hill, but you still got enough speed for a decent 60 km/h, 70 km/h sprint. I like that they added the inline barrel adjusters for the front and rear derailleurs. So you don't often see them on race bikes because at the top level,
Sure, every gram counts. But in all honesty, these two barrel adjusters probably add 10 grams to the weight of the bike, and they make setting up the gears a lot easier. And all these adjusters and all these cables are Jaguar. You know, they could have easily gone with a no brand generic option. So again, kudos to Sundeal for getting decent equipment on this. The bike cables look a bit messy at the front of this bike, but that's because the owner changed the stem to this rather extreme example and didn't redo the cables. I also love the FSA finishing kit. I think it makes the bike super comfortable and probably shaves off some grams too. What do I think they got wrong on this bike? The crank length. These cranks are 172.5 mil. Anyone riding a 48 centimeter frame should not be on 172.5 mil cranks. I think crank length on stock bikes is an issue across the whole bike industry though, and it's not going to affect people buying larger sizes. Also the handlebar width. These bars are 420 mil center to center. Being a smaller rider and being into aero gains, I'm more used to 380 mil bars, and these bars just felt like I was giving the air in front of me a great big bear hug. Again, on a 48 centimeter frame, I think 420 mil is way too big, but neither of these things are going to affect people buying larger sizes. So what's my conclusion? I think the R10 is a good bike. If you found one of these online and you're wondering if it's a good choice, I say go for it. As a first road bike or a first carbon road bike, it's brilliant. I feel like this bike can grow along with you. You can slowly upgrade it over time as you improve and get more into cycling. Maybe some bike snobs on your local group rides might look down on your bike for having SRAM Apex or for being a Sundeal, but take the money you saved on the bike, buy a pound meter, do some focus training, and drop them on a ride, and then see if they still talk shit. I also think this makes a good second bike. If your race bike is too extreme and you want something just for training rides, I think this is a great option. Or you can buy this bike for the same reason my friend bought this bike, to try and get his wife into cycling. It's a great bike that's easy to maintain, it's relatively bomb-proof, and not a huge investment if your significant other ends up not liking it. Well, that's about it for this video, guys. I hope you liked this one. It was something a little different to my other videos, something new, something not fake. I'd love to bring you more videos like this. I really don't get too many views here on this channel though, so if you can share this with your cyclist friends or give me a like and subscribe if you haven't already, I'd really appreciate it. It's more motivation for me to get out there and make these videos. Let me know in the comments below what you'd like to see next, and I'll see if I can get my hands on it to review it. And so, until next time, ride safe, guys.